Donald Trump is in a state of complete collapse, and it's visible to everyone, which I have to admit brings a smile to my face. But it's true, Marjorie Taylor Greene sees it and is taking full advantage. Trump himself sees it and is panicking. Even worse, members of his own administration are recognizing it and jumping ship. This moment of weakness for Trump has just been marked by another shocking resignation following a scandal that has become fatal for him. Everything seems to be going wrong for Trump, and we're going to break it all down. Before we dive in, if you want to support our work, please leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way in helping us continue. Now, before we discuss this shocking resignation and its impact on the Trump administration, let's start with something that's sure to make you smile. Commentary from our friends at The Bulwark, especially Tim Miller, who analyzed what a MAGA podcaster had to say about Trump's potential downfall.
It seems to not be doing anything good for anyone. This is the end of the Trump administration. This is the beginning of the lame duck presidency. It's obvious to everyone, even his most ardent supporters show up to the White House, like Laura Ingraham, and she's kind of shocked, going, what the hell's going on? Now we'll start, 3 years of talking about the ballroom. He will trail off. He will get older. He's adorned the White House in gold. Epstein's going to suck the oxygen out of a lot of this.
It's obvious to Tim Dillon that this is the end of the Trump presidency. And it's always as an overstated statement, but this is kind of how I've felt the last week. I don't want to get over excited. Obviously, Trump could do an insane amount of damage over the next 3 years. And who knows what he will try to pull between now and, when he is term limited, from his, role as president. But in a way that is different from anything since really January 6th. It does feel as if you can see how this thing crashes and burns.
I've shared clips from Tim Dillon on the show before. He's the podcaster that Tim and Bill were watching in that segment. He's MAGA adjacent. He supports Trump and leans right, and he recently had Marjorie Taylor Greene on his show, but he's not a die-hard cultist. He's not someone who blindly follows the administration, which makes him a useful gauge for where MAGA stands right now. A clear sign of the shifting loyalty is that people who were wearing Trump 2028 hats just a few months or even weeks ago are now talking about 2028 in entirely different terms. They're discussing figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, or Ted Cruz. Axios even reported today about Ted Cruz potentially running for president again. That shows how dramatically things have changed, driven by scandal after scandal and repeated failures in Trump's administration. One event leading to this shock resignation was the devastating flooding in Texas a few months back, caused in large part by the administration's negligence. Trump was asked about it, and we need this context to fully understand the significance of the recent reporting.
Several families we've heard from are obviously upset because they say that those warnings, those alerts didn't go out in time, and they also say that people could have been saved. What do you say to those families?
Well, I think everyone did an incredible job under the circumstances. This was, I guess Christie said, a 1 in 500, 1 in 1,000 years, and I just have admiration for the job that everybody did. There was just admiration. The only bad person would ask a question like that, to be honest with you. I don't know who you are, but only a very evil person would ask a question like that. I think this has been heroism. This has been incredible, really, the job you've all done. It's easy to sit back and say, oh, what could have happened here or there, Maybe we could have done something differently. This was a thing that has never happened before.
Donald Trump's usual reaction to criticism or being questioned is to attack the reporters asking the questions. This was especially true during the time when the Epstein controversy was starting to gain attention. When asked about Jeffrey Epstein, Trump famously said, "Are you really still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?" That guy is long gone. We need to focus on Texas. But in reality, Trump never truly focused on Texas. In fact, his actions diverted resources away from communities that desperately needed them. He never apologized or acknowledged that emergency funds provided by the Biden administration weren't properly used by Republican officials in that county. A clear mistake. Now that mistake is coming into sharper focus with the latest shocking resignation in his administration. This event highlights the ongoing scandals, repeated failures, and the overall collapse of Trump's leadership. Everything seems to be unraveling, and this resignation is a stark example of it.
We have breaking news. The Washington Post reports the head of FEMA, David Richardson, has resigned after a very rocky 6 months on the job. I want to bring back MS Now reporter Laura Barone-Lopez at the White House. What have you learned, Laura?
So right now, Chris, we don't have this confirmed from the White House or from the Department of Homeland Security. I have, though, been texting with a number of FEMA employees, and because over the course of his 6-month tenure, Richardson's tenure, who formerly served in the Marine Corps, it has been a rocky tenure, and FEMA employees have not necessarily been supportive of him atop the role as acting director of FEMA. He made news when at the beginning he came in and held an all-hands meeting with FEMA employees and essentially said that he and he alone spoke for FEMA. He said that that he was the one who was fully in charge and that he wanted people to be paying attention to him directly. But after the floods in Texas over the summer and other emergencies that were facing the agency, FEMA employees have essentially felt as though he was an absent leader and not someone who is necessarily as hands-on as he said that he was going to be at the beginning. And that this is an agency, Chris, I think it's important to add, is one that the Trump administration and multiple people from the president on down to Kristi Noem, the DHS secretary, have said from the beginning that they were looking to dismantle. They have been looking to dismantle the FEMA agency since they came into office, Chris.
Laura Barone-Lopez, thank you.
Just in, Trump's FEMA chief resigns after only 6 months. There's a lot to unpack here, but let's go back to around this time last year when a devastating storm tore through Florida, Georgia, and especially North Carolina, areas that Trump has still largely ignored. During this time, he criticized President Biden and Vice President Harris, claiming they were neglecting certain communities for political reasons, ironically mirroring the way Trump himself began his administration. Early on, he withheld disaster relief from California during the wildfires, saying Governor Gavin Newsom didn't deserve the necessary aid. This pattern of ignoring communities in crisis has been consistent. These communities have never been his priority. When Trump visited North Carolina, he even turned the rubble from damaged homes, stores, and churches into a symbolic podium for himself, saying it made for nice imagery, while claiming the response, or lack thereof, was political. This aligns with his first-term approach when he rejected disaster aid requests and even spoke about dismantling FEMA. Now, the recent resignation in his administration highlights the consequences of that ongoing dismantling. FEMA is a critical agency, especially as climate change makes storms more severe and natural disasters increasingly deadly. Trump's policies, prioritizing massive tax cuts for the wealthiest while cutting critical emergency support, have real-world consequences, including lives lost. One of the most striking examples of this ongoing political battle came today, when Representative Jim McGovern confronted a MAGA Republican over condemning socialism, leading to a remarkable exchange that captures the stakes perfectly.
I just have some yes or no questions that I hope to get you to just say if these things are socialist policies or not. So let's start. Socialist or not, Medicare.
I think it's I'll give you a yes or no answer. That is on the side of state control of health care, so I'd say it could be considered socialist.
Oh, wow, okay. Social Security.
No.
What about SNAP, the food assistance program?
No.
How about VA Health or the VA Home Loan Program? Is that socialist?
I don't think so. I think that's a commitment we made following the admonition of President Lincoln to pay benefits to those who wore the uniform and served in uniform.
Fire departments?
No.
National parks?
No.
Public schools?
No.
How about the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which Republicans are refusing to extend?
Well, again, I think the state has far too much control in health care dominating it, and therefore I think the health care programs, as a general matter, could be considered state control and therefore on the side of socialism.
So, of all, okay, so of all those, I mean, you kind of hint that the tax credits might be, and Medicare, you mentioned, might be considered a socialist program. So, is this resolution condemning Medicare?
No, it's condemning socialism.
According to the bill, it says Congress announces socialism in all its forms. And you just said that Medicare could be considered a socialist program.
Yes, some people could consider it a too much state control. That's right.
Okay. Let me ask you a few more. Socialist or not, President Trump's proposal to use tariff revenue from his trade war to bail out farmers to the tune of billions of dollars.
I don't think that's socialism.
That's redistributing kind of.
Well, I don't.
I mean that's like a. Well, whatever. I mean, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Yes. How about the Trump administration's $9 billion stake in chip in chip manufacturer Intel?
Well, I didn't support the CHIPS Act by the Biden administration. I'm not a big fan of industrial policy on that scale, personally.
So that's a yes for that?
Well, I wouldn't call it socialism. Right. I'm not calling it socialism, but you're asking me,
Medicare is, but that's not. Okay. Commerce Secretary Lutnick recently stated that the Trump administration is considering taking ownership stakes in large defense companies like Boeing and Lockheed Martin. If he did that, would that be a socialist policy?
Not necessarily.
Yeah. So, look, again, there's no definition in here, but you just basically said that Medicare could be considered a socialist policy. And as I read, this is it's resolved that Congress denounces socialism in all its forms and opposes the implementation of socialist policies in the United States. Again, we did this last year.
You did, last Congress, and you voted in favor of it, I think.
Yeah.
You voted against it in the rule. I don't know how you voted on it.
I think I voted no.
You voted no, yeah.
Yeah, no. Because there's no definition here.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be honest with you, I'm really concerned because I follow social media like everybody here does, listen to the news, and I hear the word socialist thrown around all the time for every program that seems to be about helping lift people out of poverty, that helps make people's quality of life better. And again, I think Medicare is a good program. I support it 1,000,000%. And so I cannot vote for a resolution that can be interpreted as condemning Medicare as a socialist policy. So I thank.
Republicans often oppose socialism, except when it comes to programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And let's not forget, when disaster hits their own communities, they expect government bailouts. But this isn't a bailout. It's the government's responsibility to keep people safe, provide food and shelter, maintain infrastructure like roads and bridges, and ensure clean water. That's not socialism. It's basic governance. Kudos to Jim McGovern for making that distinction clear and calling out hypocrisy. We'll continue doing the same on this show. If you want to support our work, hit the subscribe button and leave a like on this video. If you've made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.